This is basically a fighting game. It is years in the making, and is the best effort of Rob Elam, the dude who does everything, Ryan Elam, the older brother who can't wait to mooch off Rob's success, Josh Jensen, sound code assembler wizard, Kenny Chow, music master, and many more. See the credits below. It has many features not found in any other fighting game. One Must Fall 2097 is a great way to relieve stress, improve hand-eye coordination, or just generally waste enormous amounts of time. Rob Elam. Get off my lawn! One Must Fall 2097 is the embodiment of everything good about DOS gaming. It had a small but dedicated team who knew exactly the sort of game they wanted to make, and who really cared about what they were doing. Fighting games on DOS had been around since the late 80s, but they were almost always poor console ports that made PC users feel like second-class citizens. Step forth into the arena, One Must Fall, with its simple premise. Let's make an improved version of Street Fighter 2 for DOS, but instead of martial artists, we'll have giant robots. After some cool lightning and the game logo, you're given your first shot of the massive Jaguar, standing in victory with spotlights tracing over it, to the backing of some thumping dance music. Then you're presented with a comprehensive menu where you can alter all kinds of things. Never mind that, we want to play as that giant Jaguar taking up half the screen like some Grecian colossus. Let's do it! You pick a pilot, each with varying abilities and clearly anime-inspired art style that doesn't feel too obtrusive. Stefan is a good all-rounder, so we select him. Robot choice comes next and it defaults to Shadow. Shadow? We don't want Shadow with his weird pointy kicks. Give us the damn Jaguar already. Turns out that just like Stefan, the Jaguar we're craving is a good all-rounder. Not the fastest or the strongest at anything, but also lacking any inherent flaws. Before going any further, you're greeted by a unique banter depending on the characters. Sort of like a pre-match promo, but we'll get back to that in due course. You move your bot with the arrow keys, punch with enter and kick with shift. That's it. It's the combination of those keys that's important, especially if you have slow fingers with all the dexterity of an overcooked sausage. The Jaguar is good with its legs and okay in the air. As a result, my attacks focus on swiftly cornering an opponent with a series of high and low kicks, mixed up with the occasional slam. If I fail to do this, my opponent beats me into a fine paste. You're given points for hit combos and generally doing damage. You're also awarded bonus points for a perfect round, and for destruction, which I never bother using, but looks something like this. The arenas you fight in will vary, each of them having different potential environmental hazards to exploit. On punching bag difficulty, life is simple for Stefan, as you figure out the various combos that produce the most bang for your buck, and watch as your score climbs higher and higher. Each contest is followed by a news reporter describing the action and showing stills of a fight. This is a nice little novelty, but ultimately you'll be skipping this more often than not, because they soon run out of new things to say. If you take to the game really quickly and have single run contests, you can get to the end in 5 minutes flat, until you get to Major Krisak, and OMF stops you in your tracks. That's right, they'll not even let you take on the final boss until you're good enough to fight him on Veteran or higher, 2 whole difficulty levels away. So it's time to do it all over again to prove to the Major that we have what it takes. Your initial tactics might be in for a rude awakening on this setting, as the computer AI has the audacity to block your shots and generally make life more difficult for you. The strategy of the AI also varies by opponent, so you have to be on your game every single match. Otherwise, the unorthodox shape of the flail combined with Milano's blistering speed meant an overconfident Stefan met his match. Fortunately, if you lose, you can choose to continue, at the expense of your score getting a hard reset. Because of this constant fret, it's a good idea to figure out the character and bot combinations, so you know what kind of fight you're up against. With his newfound knowledge of the bots, Stefan took his nemesis out after a hard-fought battle, before venting his frustrations at losing on a helpless cassette. After this, it's time to take on Major Kresak and his enormous Nova, and while the Major puts up a good fight, Stefan's furious offense causes a glorious explosion at the end. Then there's a nicely written cutscene where you discover that by winning today, your reward is an entire moon. Kresak had fused his brain with the body of the Nova, and you had straight up murdered the guy without knowing and remained completely unrepentant about your actions. Why? Well, it turns out that the Major was trying to create an army of cyborgs to rule the universe, which doesn't paint him in the most sympathetic of lights. How do I know this? Depending on the character you choose, the text at the end changes. Each fighter has their own motivations and backstory, so play them all again to find out. One Must Fall is jam-packed full of secrets and special button combinations that every fighting game Warfare Salt has built in as standard. Get all that? Good, because I sure didn't. What's also standard in fighting games is the 2-player versus mode, and that's easily accessed with the 2-player game option right underneath. Unless you have a friend nearby though, it's completely pointless in 2020, where nobody plays locally with anyone else anymore. Overall, the combo of a brief tutorial campaign coupled with the ability to play with a friend would make One Must Fall a classic DOS fighting game, possibly the best ever made for the system. But there's another mode underneath that. Tournament mode. What is tournament mode? Some kind of LAN version of 2-player perhaps? Some early form of internet game? Wrong! Tournament mode is the actual OMF game. The other modes were just warm-ups. Now that you've a basic understanding of how to fight, this is where the fun really begins. You're invited to create a new pilot and give them a name. Then you have a choice of faces. You could be a pretty woman, a long-haired loser, a buxom blonde, or the coolest and most awesome guy ever. After this, you have to choose what difficulty you want the tournament AI to be, and this also alters some of the encounters you face later, so choose wisely as you can't change it. I picked hard, and to survive you'll need ball bearings of steel. Wait, Duke Nukem 3D came out in 1996, and OMF came out in 1994. You're given $2,000 and a Jaguar to start with, and told to join any of 4 tournaments. Since you can only afford the North American Open, that's what we're forced into doing. To the left under your profile picture is your name, your ranking in the tournament, your win-loss record, your finances, and any tournaments you're competing in. To the right is the name of your bot and its special moves. Underneath this information is your pilot's power, agility, and endurance, which are RPG-like stats that you buy training courses for to improve. They're pretty self-explanatory. To their right is your bot stats. How fast your arms and legs move and how hard they hit, plus how much damage is mitigated by your bot's armor, and how much damage your stun meter takes from blows. It's all very straightforward, and you upgrade the bot by buying parts, with the winnings you accumulate as a result of victories against opponents in tournaments. You can also change the bot's colour here. Lonnie chose to upgrade his agility several times, and there's a good reason for that. The robot upgrades are considerably more expensive, and he doesn't have the cash. With almost no agility and no speed upgrades, the Jaguar moves in slow motion compared to our jaunt with Stefan. Fortunately, our opponent Cassette wasn't up to much in her shadow, allowing us to take advantage of the fiery arena floor by hitting the floating circle. With no power above the bare minimum, it took Lonnie an age to whittle down her health, and the hard AI countered several of the shots by hitting the opposite keys and producing a block. After breaking through her stun resistance and leaving her bot discombobulated, Lonnie picked up his first victory. But more importantly, he didn't take a beating while doing so. Your score is now added to your bonus pay packet, on top of winnings and minus a repair cost. The man tasked with repairing your bot is a grizzled old vet, who I like to imagine has the same voice as Mickey from the Rocky series. What he tells you depends on how much of a beating your bot took, ranging from outraged anger to grumbling about how good you think you are, and occasionally proclaiming that he gets to go home early. Even when he's paying you a compliment, it's sparing. But you don't want to upset the old guy now, do you? Keep the damage to a minimum for his sake. After spending our hard-fought earnings on a shiny new leg power upgrade, it's off to take on a familiar face. The cocky Stefan from our single-player campaign is here to take us on in a Jaguar. He berates us soundly, and because we're a custom character, we don't have a pre-written response. You can either play the role of a strong and silent type, or make up a devastating non-PC comeback in your head. Just listen to those fans. You know you can quit now and save the embarrassment. At least I have one fan in the audience, after what I did to your mother last night. Hey, wait a minute, Mick! Why are you working on his bot? You're supposed to be my mechanic, damn it! Stefan gets a good few hits in, but I'm competent with the Jag, so victory is inevitable despite him breaking my stun resistance for the first time. Not too bad. Looks like you kept at least one step ahead of him. No thanks to you, you traitor. You settle into a nice cycle now of destroying lesser opponents. You are inferior. Did you work in a cinema? Because all I'm hearing is projection. Upgrade your bot with your winnings, and then work your way up the ranks, which are handily displayed by hitting the simulation option. This way you can test yourself against future opponents without worrying about a potential loss. The Gulf War style map has a day and night version, with planes shooting at you for some reason. They can often be the tipping point in a closely fought contest. Desert after desert, contest after contest, they all fell before Lonnie's patented kicking, with a roundhouse that would make Chuck Norris nod in quiet approval. Most of the competitors in the opening tournament will be using the bots from the shareware version, and they won't be much quicker and stronger than you are. This allows for a gentle difficulty curve for those who haven't played the 1 or 2 player modes for some reason. Most of the competitors will specialize in one area, like having a lot of endurance and power but at the expense of speed, or having loads of speed but no stun resistance. Then we reach Raven. He's in his Pyros, a bot that used to give me nightmares back in the day. Fortunately, Lonnie's agility upgrades keep him one step ahead of Raven's sluggish charges, and with the arena not foisting any traps or tricks upon the contest, Lonnie comes out the clear winner. Upon beating Raven, a newscaster informs everyone that we have a new champion, and a cutscene rolls. The Katoshai challenge is next, and you start to come across new opponents and bots, like Jacob and his Gargoyle, or Eva Orion and her Oyurish Katana. The competition is slightly harder, and their stats are higher than the previous grunts you dispatched on your way to Raven. Fortunately, Lonnie prevailed against Jacqueline and her Shredder, and was rewarded with this glorious shot of the Jag. The War Invitational brings us another Katana, and the fights get much harder, with Lonnie's upgrades just not keeping pace with the field. A few fights are touch and go, but he manages to scrape through with his repetitive strategy of taking to the air and beating his opponent into submission with kicks. Then there's Killian. Killian is a shadowy figure that Lonnie had previously defeated, and after a news report, he takes you on as an unranked challenger. These pop up from time to time depending upon your difficulty level and the actions in the previous fight. Consult the FAQ for more information on how to trigger them. Killian decimates me with a supercharged version of Electra, and it's not even close. I beat Marissa, and he challenges me again, and it's still not even close. I lose to Bruce in his Pyro, and I'm bumped back down to taking on Marissa yet again, only for Killian to challenge me a third consecutive time. After a narrow loss to Crystal, who completely negated my flying attacks with her gargoyle, a confidence shot Lonnie scrapes past Jared in a nervy affair, only for, "Leave me alone! Stop challenging me, I don't want to lose!" What do you mean I can just say no? That's not the point. Killian puts a hurting on me and I forfeit, to a screen of Mick giving me these fine words. "Pathetic, kid. Really pathetic. Couldn't stand the heat so you bailed out. You gotta learn how to face your fights, or you'll always be the whining coward you are today." Ashamed and hemorrhaging money from his losses, a tearful Lonnie departs the tournament, to be replaced by me. I'm not Lonnie. I'm using the character from my previous long play, and on normal difficulty this broken down fighter becomes a death-dealing machine. Marissa is annihilated in swift fashion. Bruce and Jared both inevitably fall. And then the challenge comes. Killian is out for blood, and I am out for revenge. Revenge for Lonnie! He beats me. But this time it's a much closer affair, and unlike last time, I'm able to neutralize Crystal's aerial acrobatics. The cocky Killian challenges me again, but this time I'm ready for him. And after a hellacious battle in the moonlit desert, with fighters gunning down at us, I collide with Killian a final time and he slumps to the floor, electric pulsating from his defeated form. That's when everything changed, because the winnings for this unranked challenge came to the tune of 41k, all of which got pumped into speed upgrades for my Jag. It was really time to do some damage. A Jaguar with 7 leg speed upgrades fights like this. I destroy the increasingly dark and edgy Selena and Nikolai to win the War Invitational outright. You better hope luck is on your side, cause talent is on mine. Whoever mummified you forgot to sew your mouth shut. I defeat you! I become next world champion! This tournament next step! You lose. I become world champion. You learn English next step. They fly a flag. It's a little underwhelming. So it's come to this. The World Championship. The biggest and baddest tournament the game has to offer. And we're back to destroying cassette again. That's right, everyone's in it to win it, and you'll have to take out all your previous foes in order to have a shot at the title. It's no picnic, but this is where OMF really shines. As you've been steadily upgrading your bot and abilities, so have your opposition. They're faster and stronger than ever before, meaning even the foes on the bottom rung can give you a close battle. I'm finally able to buy the level 9 leg speed upgrade at a hefty 57k, but it'll be worth it because my next opponent is Killian, who feels the full force of my kicking machine. That was for Lonnie, you son of a... The previous bosses all fall before the might of my assaults, and it's finally time to take on Ian Tavares in an almost fully upgraded Nova. Funny thing about Nova is that for all its power, for all its endurance, all I see now is a walking target, and it's easier to hit than any other bot. All my kicks have led to this moment. I'm a whirling dervish of unrelenting carnage, backing Nova into a corner, and never giving him a moment's rest. The result is unanimous. I am the champion of the world! But what's this? An unranked challenger? Please tell me it's not Killian again? No, it's Nikolai, the one with the broken English who was obsessed with becoming champ. And he has a Nova now. One final winner-takes-all battle. The newly crowned champion versus the obsessive, vengeance-fueled... Nah, I just kick him to death, and he doesn't land a single blow. What a loser. Should have learned English properly like I told him to. OMF has one more trick up its sleeve. When you register for the North American Open again, it's a new season, and the athletes keep all their upgrades they made from the previous season, a feature now commonly referred to as New Game Plus. so you can continue fighting forever. I leave you with a quote from Chris Martin. No, not the Coldplay singer, the Moby Games user. I hate fighting games, except this one. OMF was made free by the developers in 1999. Go and play it, even if you've never played a fighting game before. It's an essential piece of DOS gaming history that everyone should try at least once. Do it now, or I'll kick you so hard you'll land in a cyberpunk city. You didn't think I meant Cyberpunk 2077, did you?